He thought it was just another night of fishing. But when Ikong pulled in his net, it wasn't fish he found. It was a mermaid holding her child. She begged him to let them go. He didn't listen. He became happy that he had found a good fortune that he can keep or sell to become wealthy. Before now, Ikong pushed his small canoe into the water and paddled, slicing the waves with steady strokes. Villagers were asleep, but poverty never slept, and hunger didn't wait for daylight. So he decided to fish. His arms ached from hours of empty nets. The sea had been stingy all week, offering nothing but scraps. Tonight, though, he told himself it would be different. He rowed farther than ever before, into waters whispered about in palm wine tales, the places where spirits were said to live. Then, without warning, his net grew heavy. Too heavy. The rope burned against his palms as he pulled. His heart raced. Perhaps it was a shoal of tilapia, or a stubborn barracuda thrashing inside sweat slid down his temple as he hauled the dripping net closer. But what broke the surface was not fish. It was a face. A woman's face. Her hair streamed in the water like dark smoke, and her skin glowed faintly, silver against the night. In her arms was a child, its back dusted with tiny shimmering scales. Ikong's breath caught. His canoe rocked dangerously. The stories were true, Mermaid. The woman's eyes locked onto his, deep and endless like wells that had no bottom. She pressed the child closer to her chest. And then, in a voice that was both music and mourning, she spoke. "Let us go." The sound was not quite human, not quite wave, but something in between. It slid into Ikong's ears and tightened his chest. "Return me to the deep, fisherman," she pleaded. "I am no catch for your basket. Let us go, and the sea will remember your kindness." For a heartbeat, Ikong almost obeyed. His hands trembled. But then he remembered, immediately. He remembered the whispers of men who drank palm wine under the moonlight. They spoke of mermaids and their children that, whoever caught one, they said, would never know poverty again. Their tears could buy kingdoms. Their hair was worth more than gold. Ikong's poverty weighed heavier than the sea itself. His empty hut, his children's hungry bellies, his wife's tired eyes. And so, instead of loosening the net, he pulled harder. The baby made a sound. Not a cry, but something strange, like water bubbling against rock. Ikong's heart skipped, but his grip tightened. The mermaid's expression shifted. Her glow dimmed. Her voice sharpened like broken glass. "If you take her," she warned, "the ocean will close its eyes. And when the sea sleeps, the world suffers." Her words chilled him. But greed is a loud master. Ikong's mind was already racing ahead, imagining wealth, respect, a life free of struggle. He yanked the child from her arms. The mermaid's scream split the night, echoing across the waves. Her hair whipped like angry currents, her hands clawed at the air, but the net dragged her down. With one last trembling look, an oath written in her eyes, she vanished beneath the water. Ikong stared at the child in his arms. Its eyes were too calm, too old. They blinked slowly, like waves rolling onto shore. And though it did not speak, he thought he heard it whisper, "You will suffer." The first thing Aisha noticed was the floor. A thin line of water stretched from the doorway to the back of the hut, as though the sea itself had followed her husband home. Ikong stood in the doorway, his chest rising and falling, the bundle in his arms wrapped in old cloth. Fish baskets clattered at his feet, tilapia so fat and shining they almost looked fake. But Aisha's eyes weren't on the fish. They were on the bundle. "It is dripping," she said quietly. Ikong's voice cracked like an old paddle. The net splashed. The cloth moved, just slightly, like something breathing inside. Then came a sound, not a baby's cry. No, it was softer, stranger, like water bubbling in a clay pot. A mother knows when something is wrong. Aisha's eyes lingered, and Ikong turned away too quickly, hiding the bundle behind a mat near the darkest corner of the room. "Cook," he muttered, sharper than he meant. "We must eat before market." That night, the house did not sleep. The child did not wail like normal babies. It hummed, low, steady, like the tide sneaking back onto the sand. Little Ima, their daughter, crept toward the corner, wide-eyed. "Papa," she whispered, "why is the floor crying?" Ikong forced a laugh. "The sea is sloppy." But Aisha did not laugh. She lay awake, hearing the waters whisper from the corner. Her hand reached for her husband in the dark, but found only his back turned stiffly away. By the next morning, the village had begun to talk. The women who fetched water from the stream came back with worried faces. "The river is slowing," they said. "The banks are turning to mud." Nana Afua, the oldest woman in the village, came by with her walking stick. She stopped at Ikong's door, sniffed the air, and frowned. "The house smells of the sea," she murmured. Her eyes lingered on the wet trail across the floor. Then she leaned on her stick and gave her warning the way elders do, with a proverb that sounds like advice, but tastes like judgment. "Whatever a man drags from the water," she said, "the water will one day come to count." And just like that, she left. That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Ekong stood at the shore with his wife beside him. The waves were slow, too slow. The ocean was breathing as though something heavy sat on its chest. Aisha spoke softly, almost like she was afraid the sea itself might overhear. "Ekong," she said, "return it. Whatever you brought into this house, it doesn't belong to us. Return it before the water remembers." Her husband's jaw clenched. His eyes stayed on the horizon. "Do you want us poor forever?" he asked. "I want us alive," Aisha whispered. Behind them, in the dark of the hut, the mermaid child blinked. Its eyes were not the eyes of a child. They were old, steady, patient. And as the waves pulled back into the night, the baby's lips parted just enough for a sound to slip out. "You will suffer." The words were barely more than a ripple in the air. But Aisha heard them, and so did the ocean. The curse did not shout. It began with whispers. On the third morning, women went to fetch water and came back empty-handed. The stream that had always run laughing through the village now crawled like an old man with broken knees. Its voice was gone. The riverbed cracked in places where no crack should be. Fish lay stranded, their mouths opening and closing like silent questions. Children gathered at the bank, throwing stones, waiting for the water to wake up. But the stones landed in dust. Even the frogs had disappeared. "The river is offended," one woman muttered, clutching her clay pot. "Something has been taken from it." By midday, the whispers had teeth. At the palm wine joint, men shook their heads, voices heavy. "The ocean is warning us. A child of the water has been stolen. If it is not returned, the sea will take everything." Ekong sat among them, his gourd untouched. His hands were restless, picking at the raffia mat beneath him. Every laugh, every glance, every word about curses seemed aimed directly at his chest. But Tunda, his rival, was the loudest. His eyes, sharp as fishhooks, never left Ekong's face. "Mark my words," Tunda said, slamming his palm against the table. "Whoever brought this curse to us will drown in his own lies, and we will all drown with him." Ekong forced a laugh, but it cracked in the middle. "You believe too many stories, Tunde. Rivers dry, it is the season." But even he didn't believe his own words. Seasons never stole rivers overnight. That evening, the village gathered under the great baobab tree. The elder priest, Etim, leaned on his staff, his beard streaked with ash. His voice carried the weight of storms. "The spirits of the water are wounded," he said, and the crowd hushed like children before a scolding. "A child has been taken. The mother cries beneath the waves, and until the thief confesses, the river will bleed itself dry. The sky will shut its mouth, and famine will sit at our tables." The villagers gasped. Mothers clutched their children. Old men shook their heads. Etim lifted his staff and struck the ground 3 times. The sound echoed unnaturally, as if the earth itself was listening. "I give the thief 1 chance," Etim Thunder read. "Return the child before the 7th sunset. If not, our land will choke, and the thief's name will rot in every mouth." The crowd murmured, fear rising like smoke. Faces turned toward each other, eyes searching. Suspicion is a disease that spreads faster than fever. Ekong stood stiff at the edge of the crowd, sweat crawling down his back. He felt the baby's weight even though the child was hidden at home. He swore he could hear its whisper riding on the priest's words. "You will suffer." That night, Aisha said nothing as she lit the cooking fire. The silence between husband and wife was louder than drums. The baby lay on the mat, eyes wide open, watching the flames. Ekong tried to eat, but every bite tasted like salt water. He pushed the bowl away and muttered, "They suspect nothing." But Aisha did not look at him. She only stirred the pot slowly, her face turned toward the door where the wind carried the faint sound of waves that seemed to be counting. Curses rarely knock. They slip inside like uninvited guests. On the 4th night, the baby did not sleep. It lay on the mat, staring at the roof with eyes too old for its body. When it finally made a sound, it was not crying, it was laughing. A small, bubbling laugh, like the ripple of a stream running over stones. But there was no stream. The house was dry. Aisha froze where she sat, pounding yam. Her hands shook. "Ekong," she whispered. "That laugh. It is not human." Ekong waved her off, though his face was pale. Children laugh strangely sometimes. But his own children, little Ima and her brother, were pressed against their mother's side, wide-eyed. Ima clutched her wrapper and whispered, "Papa, the baby's eyes are following me." Fear doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in a child's voice. That night, the hut grew damp. Not from rain, not from leaking roof, but from the walls themselves. Water slid down the mud brick like sweat. The cooking fire hissed and sputtered. The floor was slick under their mats. "The house is weeping," Aisha said. Ikong snapped, "Be silent!" His voice cracked like a whip, but it was fear, not anger, that held it. At dawn, the family found footprints outside the door. Not human footprints. Small, wet, webbed, leading from the shore to the hut, and then back to the sea. The neighbors saw them too. Women fetching firewood stopped and muttered. Children pointed. Whispers spread faster than smoke. Tunda came by, his voice heavy with suspicion. "Brother Ikong, your door is wet every morning. Your baskets are too full. Your wife looks pale. Tell me, what are you hiding?" Ikong forced a grin. "I rise early. The sea rewards hard work." But Tunde's eyes lingered too long on the damp earth. The footprints, the shadows in the corner where the baby lay. He turned away. That night, the song returned. Not from the sea, but from inside the hut. Low, haunting, as if the baby itself was humming. "You will suffer." The voice was small, childlike, but it carried the weight of the tide. Aisha covered her ears. The children clung to her waist, trembling. Ikong sat rigid, staring at the child on the mat. His jaw clenched, his hands shook, but still he said nothing. Outside, the waves pulled back and did not return for a long, unsettling moment. The village woke to find the shoreline stretched bare, fish gasping on the sand. The sea was already keeping count. The villagers had gathered in the market, trading yams for fish, firewood for palm oil. Laughter rose, goats bleated, children chased each other between the stalls. It was an ordinary day until it wasn't. A wave rose and stopped. It hung in the air like glass, its crest frozen mid-crash. Canoes tilted on its side, but instead of tumbling, they hovered like toys strung on invisible thread. Fish leapt from the surface but never landed, stuck mid-air, mouths open, eyes wide, trapped in a terrible stillness. A silence deeper than death spread over the shore. The gulls stopped calling. The wind dropped dead. Even the market's laughter cut short, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "Mummy Wada," someone whispered, falling to their knees. Panic ripped through the crowd. Women clutched their children. Men shouted. The old priest Edom struck his staff against the earth until sparks flew. "The sea has closed its eyes," he cried. "The curse is upon us." All eyes turned. Not to the wave, not to the sky, but to Ikong. Whispers hissed like snakes. "It is him? He took what was not his. He brought this death to our shore." A stone flew, striking the sand at his feet. Another hit the side of his canoe. The crowd surged, voices loud, hands reaching. Aisha stepped in front of her husband, tears streaking her face. "Please," she begged, "do not harm him." But fear has no ears. Fear only has teeth. Etim raised his staff again, his voice booming above the chaos. "Ikong, return what you have stolen. Return the child, or the ocean will bury us all." And then, as if answering Etim's command, the baby's voice rose inside Ikong's hut. Not crying, not laughing, but speaking. Speaking in a language no human child should know. The sound carried across the market, filling every ear. It was soft, yet sharp enough to slice through panic. "You will suffer?" The villagers froze. Even the angriest among them stumbled back, crossing themselves, muttering prayers. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Men spat on the ground to ward off evil. Ikong felt the blood drain from his face. His legs shook. He wanted to deny it, to shout, to defend himself. But the voice had already betrayed him. The crowd erupted. "Bring out the child," they roared. "Show us. Show us what curses us." Ikong staggered backward, into his hut. His eyes darted to the bundle in the shadows. The mermaid's child stared back at him with calm, unblinking eyes, scales glinting faintly like silver teeth. The whisper came again, this time only for him. "You will suffer." The villagers had gathered in the market, trading yams for fish, firewood for palm oil. Laughter rose, goats bleated, children chased each other between the stalls. It was an ordinary day, until it wasn't. A wave rose and stopped. It hung in the air like glass, its crest frozen mid-crash. The seventh day arrived with no dawn. The sky was dim, the sun hidden behind a wall of black clouds. The sea lay flat and gray, refusing to move. The villagers gathered in fear, all eyes on Ikong's hut. Inside, the villagers begged Ikong to return the child, but his greed clung to him like chains. Then the ocean rose. Not in waves, but in a single wall of water tall as the baobab, stretching across the horizon. It did not fall. It simply hung there, trembling, threatening to crash down and swallow the village. The people screamed. Some fell to their knees, others fled inland. The priest Etim raised his staff and shouted for the thief to confess. Finally, Aisha, unable to bear it any longer, pulled the child from the hut and lifted it high for all to see. Gasps filled the air as the villagers laid eyes on the silver-scaled infant. The child looked at them with calm, unblinking eyes, and the great wall of water shook as if waiting for its mother's command. Ikong fell to his knees, covering his face, his voice breaking. I only wanted to be free of poverty. I did not know it would cost this much. The baby blinked once, twice. Then the song stopped. The ocean groaned, as if releasing a long-held breath. The massive wave pulled back slowly, sliding back into the horizon until the sea moved again, restless, but alive. The village was spared, but Ekong was thrown into the sea immediately, and the ocean